After a chaotic end to the league phase, the teams who finished 9th to 24th will contest a two-legged playoff round for a place in the last 16, where they'll be unseeded against one of the league's top 8. As I've got quite a few videos going out this week, I'm going to predict tonight's and tomorrow's games in one video, starting with tonight's early kick-off between Brest and PSG. Brest have had a brilliant Champions League campaign so far, considering it's the first time they've ever qualified, and they were comfortably into the playoff places despite a lot of people writing them off. They won 4 of their league phase matches, beating PSV Eindhoven, Sparta Prague and the 2 Austrian teams, but also managed to draw with German champions Leverkusen, so they shouldn't be taken lightly. PSG were extremely inconsistent at the start of the league phase, but a strong finish with wins over Man City and Stuttgart ensured that they'd have another shot at the last 16. These two teams met in the league just 10 days ago, with PSG winning 5-2, and they're just so dominant in the French league, and I think this was probably the worst possible draw for Brest. I don't think they get anything out of this game, and to be honest, I think the tie will be over by the time they get to the return leg in Paris. PSG to win this one 3-0. Once that all-French tie finishes, we have 3 matches at 8 p.m. The first of those features 2 teams who played each other right back at the start of the league phase. It's Juventus against PSV Eindhoven. And Juve dominated that game in a 3-1 win, but they've been extremely inconsistent during the league phase. They've lost at home to Stuttgart and Benfica, drawn with Bruges, Lille and Villa, but did manage a comfortable win over Manchester City before Christmas. PSV looked in danger of finishing outside the top 4 when they faced Liverpool on match day 8, but ended up beating Arne Slot's team, albeit a weakened Liverpool side, who had already guaranteed themselves a top 2 finish. I think this is a really difficult game to predict, and I don't think Juventus will win it as easily as they did on match day 1. I still think they'll win, but they'll go to Eindhoven with it all to play for, and I'm saying Juve to win 2-1. And what a tie this would have been if City were playing well. It's Manchester City against Real Madrid. City were demolished at Arsenal last weekend, and they're having a really poor season by their own exceptionally high standards, and I'm genuinely worried for them here. Real Madrid, while top of La Liga, they aren't having the best season themselves, and despite finishing just outside the Champions League top 8, they lost 3 games, which was unexpected. Arne Slot's Liverpool managed to outplay them in November, but I think Pep Guardiola's underperforming team will find out just how dangerous an under-par Real Madrid can be. I can't see anything other than another hiding for City here. I don't even think there'll be anything to play for in the second leg. City's defence collapsed against Arsenal, so I don't think they're going to be able to cope with Vinicius Jr., Mbappe and Rodrigo, though they probably will score. So I'm going to say Real Madrid to win 4-1, and I dread to think what the aggregate score will be. Tonight's final game is Sporting Lisbon against Borussia Dortmund. And Sporting were flying in the Champions League until Ruben Amorim left for Manchester United. They even managed a crushing victory over Man City, but since his departure they've been struggling. Dortmund haven't been having the best European campaign either after reaching the final last season, with defeats to Real Madrid and Barcelona coming before a shock loss in Bologna all but ended their chances of reaching the last 16 automatically. Sporting were lucky to even sneak into the top 24, and given their recent form, I can't see any other outcome than Dortmund going through overall, but this might be a close game. I think Dortmund win the first leg 2-1. Let me know your predictions for tonight's games in the comments, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's move on to Wednesday night's games. And there's a 5:45 kickoff here too. The first game is Club Bruges against Atalanta, and I feel like this is the tougher half of the draw to predict. Atalanta were unlucky to finish just outside the top 8, while Club Bruges were fortunate to finish 24th on goal difference. But it was extremely close in the middle of the table, and I don't think this will be an easy tie for the Italian side. Club Bruges have been very good at home in the Champions League, with Dortmund being the only team to win here, but their away record hasn't been great. Atalanta were one of the highest scorers in the league phase and were incredibly difficult to beat, so I think we've got a really entertaining tie coming up. Club Bruges' home record and Atalanta's goal-scoring form will come into play here, and I think this one ends 2-2 to set up an exciting tie in Italy in the second leg. Tomorrow night's 8 p.m. kickoffs start with the other half of Man City's tie, which is Celtic against Bayern Munich. And I thought Celtic were really good in the league phase, with the exception of the 7-1 thrashing they received in Dortmund. And Brendan Rodgers has done a great job making them tough to beat. Bayern were one of the teams I thought would fly into the top 8, so I was surprised to see them finishing 12th, though they were only 1 point behind Leverkusen in 6th. For me, there's no question who goes through to the last 16 out of these two, but I don't think Celtic will humiliate themselves, especially not at home. Bayern Munich to take a 2-1 lead back to Germany, but I don't think Celtic will trouble them in the second leg. Feyenoord against AC Milan is an interesting one. Feyenoord finished the league phase by hammering Bayern Munich at home, then getting beaten 6-1 in Lille, so they're a difficult team to predict. November's matches are a good example of how inconsistent they've been, as they lost at home to Red Bull Salzburg, then came from 3 goals down to get a draw at the Etihad. AC Milan were also hugely inconsistent in the league phase, where they beat Real Madrid at the Bernabeu but then lost in Zagreb. So how am I supposed to predict the outcome of this one? I think we'll probably see a lot of goals and 2 entertaining games where I'm backing a home advantage, at least in the first leg. Feyenoord to win 3-2, but who knows what could happen in this one. The last playoff game is between Monaco and Benfica, and these two teams met in the league phase back in November, where Benfica won 3-2, so it could be another really entertaining game. Benfica finished the league phase in 16th, while Monaco ended up 17th, and they were only separated by 4 goals, so there's very little between these two teams. Other than that defeat here to Benfica, Monaco have been really good at home, beating Aston Villa and Barcelona, but I think this one will be extremely close. Benfica nearly always score, so this one will end 2-2, and what a tie that second leg in Portugal could be. So those are my predictions for this week's first leg ties. Let me know your predictions in the comments, subscribe to my channel, and don't forget there's FA Cup tonight as well. Why not check out my preview for the game I'm attending this evening? Thanks for watching.